The wheels of change in the women empowerment movement is turning rather slowly, despite the Constitution recognizing and protecting women leadership and people of minorities. Today we are discussing the role of women and leadership in this country. With me is Senator Farhiya Hajji, nominated senator from Wajir County, and Madam Fatuma Saman, an educationist and a former commissioner of IPOA. Welcome to the show. Senator, if I start with you, and my name of course is Ahmedkadar, and this is the Weekly Matters. Senator, if I start with you, and the space of women leadership is shrinking by the day, despite the Constitution, giving women in this country a voice and a space to be in leadership, just like another person. And there's also the issue of the affirmative action and two-thirds. But even up to date, it has not been implemented. Why so, and what is the reason you think that women, the space is shrinking for them in terms of leadership?
Assalamu alaikum, viewers. My view in terms of women leadership and why the space is shrinking is because, number one, we need to identify what are the challenges, first of all, that is hampering the empowerment of women in terms of leadership. And one of them, I believe, is education. Education being one of the equalizer. Number two, social cultural of the pastoral community. Number three, I think also the lifestyle of pastoralists does not favor women when it comes to education or other matters. Number three is economic, and number four is economic empowerment in terms of women being able to access, because it's about resources. Number five is issues to do with, especially in pastoral community, negotiated democracy that we are currently experiencing. So if by identifying how to handle those issues, then women empowerment can be at the next level. Because I do not believe that pastoral women have less intelligence, have less capacity than any other woman in the world.
Now, madam, you are an educationist. You have been in the in the empowerment of women and girl education, the girl child also. But right now, despite women and men most probably having same equal education, but almost 55 years later, the pastoralist communities and most of them in northern Kenya, there is no, other than the 47 women who are elected all over the nation, which is an affirmative position, there is no single member of parliament representing the Muslim in northern Kenya except one woman. Why are we having difficulty in electing women into leadership positions?
I think it's much more of a cultural issue. Just like what the senator is saying. In Northeastern, the introduction of negotiated democracy was actually sneaking in back the Somali tradition into political leadership. And it has really disadvantaged women. Because if you look at the way clans make decisions, they don't believe that actually women can represent an entire clan. So even for appointive and elective positions that would have been allocated to women, any clan that was suggested to bring in a woman felt shortchanged. So one big disadvantage to the women, particularly from northeastern counties, is the negotiated democracy. We were rather safer with the Islamic practice, where Islam recognizes the role of women in leadership, in political leadership, and in all other arenas. Because from the historical perspective of Islam, you'll find that women have been in leadership for quite some time. Women were consulted on matters that actually affected them and matters that affected the society in general. So they had a special place. Actually, what Islam gave women were super rights, not even equal rights. And when you now go back to the Somali tradition or the Borana tradition or all this other Cushitic tradition, you find that a woman has no place in leadership. And one big disadvantage to the women in this region is mostly because of going back to that cultural leadership where there are council of elders who make those decisions. And we have cases where women were interested in contesting, where they had submitted the applications and applications were rejected. But however, their monies were not rejected. They even paid the fee, the clan fee. You know, they sit like the IEBC equivalently.
Yes.
So where the applications were not even looked at, and matters that concerned women were not made decision on at all. A very good example is the Tarbaja constituency,
yes,
where I remember Mheshimiwa Fatuma Ibrahim was actually not even a discussion on the table, totally. That clearly shows
despite being in a leadership position at that time.
Imagine, and despite having someone who has empowered girls, who has helped the community and done a lot of work. But even to discuss her, it was felt that it was even wrong to have her discussed on.
But despite our cultures, we are Muslims first.
Yes.
Why aren't we not keeping in practice the Islamic ways of doing things than our cultures, which sometimes may be barbaric?
True. I think what politicians do in power brokering is they work with the strategy that works for them. They're not even that cultural, let's say. The same men are very religious. They go to the masjids, they practice Islam when it comes to all other issues. They adhere to Islamic principles. But because the negotiated democracy was more helpful or advantageous to the political scenario then, so I think it's just about politics and that. But generally, this is one thing I want to say, that generally in the country, the political brokerage is still very patriarchal in the entire country. It is male-dominated. Where decisions of power are made, there are no women on the table. Most of these decisions are made in pubs. They are made late at night in hotels. And these are not spaces where women can be present. And if you look at the country now, you would say women have really improved in terms of education and in terms of proving themselves to the Kenyan society that they can actually lead. You will still find them doing very well in areas where there is no contestation between male and female. Sorry. But when it comes to now power and trusting them with leadership, the element of trust within the African culture is very limited when it comes to women. It's unfair, kind of. Okay. But truly speaking, women are never there where power is brokered.
Now, Senator, see, despite the cultural thing, despite women not being given the space, some will say women are the majority in terms of population, and they can vote for themselves. So what stops them, even if men go and sit and discuss, why can't women arrange themselves and vote for themselves in terms of leadership and all other aspects of life? Politically. You know what they say? Yes.
Oppression, it's at its height when the oppressed is part of those who are perpetrating oppression.
Yes.
And that's exactly what's happening to women. Yes. They have been oppressed for a very long time, at a level whereby, number one, sometimes they might not understand even their rights. And even if they do, because those who go for leadership positions do understand their rights, there are so many obstacles that don't exist. Let me even give you an example. It doesn't have to be even elective leadership. Look at even in terms of companies. Look at in terms of leadership, in terms of even organization, government agencies, everywhere. First of all, I apologize. I wanted to thank Ahmed Abiy, the Ethiopian Prime Minister,
Abiy,
for taking such a bold step. Not only did he appoint 50%
yes.
of his cabinet positions to women,
yes.
he also gave them key ministries.
Yes.
And I'm sure Ethiopia will develop at a level where it has never been experienced before. Because when women are given positions, they take it to a different level. Even in leadership, now let me come back to what I was discussing. When a woman has a leadership position, even in company, in everywhere, they have to work 4 times harder for them even to feel that they can be at par to move to the next level compared to the male counterpart, yes. who has to do just one. So some of these are the obstacles that is stopping women. For example, in Ijara, I understand the first time Mheshimiwa Sophia Abdi contested,
yes.
there are men who said, let her first of us lead us in prayer. That is the time we can vote her in. And you know, I went to Mheshimiwa Sophia's constituency the other sometime last month when she was launching her 100 days in office. The lady has already done a tarmac road. You tell me, at least I know the ones of Wajir, which one has done a tarmac road, for example? Okay. None.
Yes.
So now, women, when they are given responsibility, they take it to the next level. It's the obstacles that stop them, like the way I have listed it before.
Yes.
For example, education. In other places, they are at par. But pastoralists, we are far from being at par in terms of education. Let me even talk about myself. Even I'm sure it's the same for my sister Fatuma. Even me, when I was in Form 2, I almost was married off. If my father had not stood his ground to say that my daughter has to finish school, and then we see from there. You see, if my father was one of those traditionalist fathers, then I would have been married off when I was very young. So women lose those kind of opportunity. So in pastoral setup, the women are not even at par with in terms of education, despite the rest of the country being almost at par. So this idea of people saying, oh, women, you know, they are enemies of each other. I don't believe that. We are not. It's people strategizing to ensure that we oppress ourselves. And, you know, and even those who try, I mean, you see them in public, maybe attacking other women or doing injustice to the cause of women. They have male advisors who advise them otherwise. But a rationally thinking lady knows that a woman given opportunity, and I am a believer that Africa will never develop the same power with the rest of the world if women, because, you know, let's face it, we think differently from men. So unless those discussions from the male side and the female perspective are not brought onto the table, then there's always a gap in decision making, which often leads to bad decision that in the end affect how a country develops. Let's even talk about issues of corruption.
We are going to come to that. Let me put this to Madam Fatuma. The issue of my senator says in the pastoralist communities, even still girls are behind. They are not at par in terms of education. But it's something not only to pastoralists, but it seems like it's something common within the Muslim counties, despite Islam giving the girl child a proper role in terms of, you know, leadership, in terms of the right to seek education, the right to marry when she wants at her own will, the consent, even though the parents have, you know, their consent, but at the end of the day, it resides with the lady or whoever is going to be married to come from that consent. Now, how can this trend of education, girls dropping out from school, especially now that you are from education background, how can this thing be managed or mitigated rather?
It can be mitigated, and it can if we are committed. There are so many policies that or legal framework that have been put in place to ensure that the girl child is supported through the schooling processes. But again, remember, the stereotypes are still there. There are parents who would feel like, why would I spend so much on a girl who you do not see the returns? And that's why it's very critical that we focus on the women who have gone through the education process, have been able to prove themselves, for them to be seen as role models, to be appointed and to be assisted to go to levels of leadership. The moment we are able to prove to society that women are given a space to lead and to do greater things and are able to be seen for who truly they are, and they are given that space, there'll be need for the parent back in the village to see why there is need to invest in the girl child. Unfortunately, what we do is, even as a girl is seen through the learning process, when she comes to the working class, there's no level playing field for appointments, for promotion. Look at the education sector itself. How many education directors do we have in the Ministry of Education that are women and leading women empowerment programs? If you go to the directorate, you'll find quite a number are men. So we need to be sending the right messages. When we look at our cabinet secretaries, how many of them are women compared to men? If you look at the parliament, even the 47 seats that were deliberately created when we were going through the National Constitutional Review process are being fought now. And people are feeling like they are a burden. But truly speaking, if Mheshimiwa Safia Abdi never had an opportunity to showcase that she can lead as a nominated MP in that parliament, who would have trusted her with leadership? The entire reason why these seats were created was to give women space and to show. And we have seen. Look at the Wajir woman MP. Look at all the women MPs around. You'll be amazed at the amount of work that they are doing within their communities. Look at the leadership the Homa Bay women MP has shown.
Yes.
Look at how beautifully she can articulate issues of the society.
Yes.
And if we never created that opportunity for such women, they would never have been seen. So the whole idea was to give a level playing field for women who were disadvantaged otherwise in society. Because when they went out there to campaign for elective positions, there was a lot of mudslinging, there's a lot of fighting. But now, when someone sees a lady like Dr. Laboso, there's reason why her society and her community accepted her as a leader. She got an opportunity.
Are we going to have a governor from Northeastern or even the coast?
There's no problem in being ambitious. We are ambitious.
We are going to discuss that. We are going for a short break.
Okay.
We are going for a short break. I would like to remind our viewers we're also live on our Facebook page. That's Horizon TV Kenya. Twitter at Horizon TV Kenya. Myself at Ahmedkadar 1. The senator also has a Twitter handle, I'm sure. What's your Twitter handle? Farhiya Hajji. At Saman Fatuma. That's our Twitter handle. Keep it there. We'll be back shortly. If you have just joined us, we are discussing the role of women and leadership in this country, and more so in the Muslim and pastoralist communities. And with me in the studio is Madam Fatuma Saman and Senator Farhiya Hajji. And we have been discussing this and putting into perspective why women leadership ought to be taken serious. Now, before we went for a break, and we have been discussing, what challenges women go through and why that need to be changed. Now, Senator, you are a role model for girls. Now that you are 1 year in the Senate, we have seen what you can do. You articulate issues. The other day I was checking on the website and I've seen only this year you have spoken more than 20 times. I think something that over 40 years, something like that. Because we were discussing some things, normally doing my research on Muslim leaders in this country. And you are the most articulate senator we have from the pastoralist communities. And you are a woman. And there's nothing shortcoming about that, despite men being there. So why are girls in the pastoralist communities and the Muslim communities, especially themselves, not looking up to the women who are before them, like you?
Okay, first of all, the affirmative action and this other is something that we have only done 5 years.
Yes.
And this is the second term. And I think if we continue at the pace we are continuing,
Yes.
I mean, people will have enough role models for us to articulate our issues and for people to recognize that, even women have brains at the end of the day. I don't think people are not aware that women have no brains. Even in the homestead, let me even take an example of a very basic management. Management of issues starts at home. Look at even what happens in their own homestead. Who manages that house? In terms of ensuring that akhlaq, everything
Yes.
is articulated, and child in terms of the growth, and even in terms of economics of how the home is run, women are in charge. And then even pastoral communities, in terms of even their livelihood, women are in charge. It's only that they do not get the economic benefits in terms of what they sow. Like even taking the camel to the, even in terms of, even long time ago, when a woman and a girl child and a boy go to, in the Arabic setup for the Somali community, let me even be more specific.
Yes.
There used to be a Somali, they used to say, this girl is making the boy not progress. what that meant is that this girl is much more intelligent than the boy.
Yes.
And once the girl progresses, the boy will be discouraged.
Yes.
So let us remove her from
The equation.
the Quranic schools. That is how even the girls were disadvantaged, even during the traditional time, which is very un-Islamic. And what we are teaching is Islamic. So those are some of the things that we can provide the role. I used to, there was a discussion the other day I had with one of our leaders in Wajir, and somebody said, oh, next time we shall elect you as a women rep. I said, why are you electing me as a woman rep? I used to work in Wajir.
Yes.
I worked there for 5 years.
Yes.
How I did my job was very fair because I used to manage finance, logistics, and HR in Wajir, in where I used to work. And people agree that those days, even business, in terms of how I awarded contracts and businesses, was a very just manner.
Yes.
People are aware. So I asked the person.
I'm not a governor.
I asked the person, why, you used to remember how I used to do the work in Wajir.
Yes.
Why do you think I cannot be an MP and you want me to be a women rep? A women rep is supposed to empower women to get into the position for them to be known.
Yes.
But I'm already there.
Yes.
Why don't you tell me we shall elect you in such a constituency?
So that you run our local issues.
Yes. So
Yes.
that is where the resources are. Then you can see the difference in terms of what
Yes.
I'm capable of doing. So it is just injustice that is perpetrated. And women, by the way, do provide role models. Even in terms of, I'm sure even Sister Fatuma is the same. We would never have gone to school if our mothers did not even provide the economics that took us to schools. Because my father was just a government driver. My mother is the one who used to do hawking business. And she used to provide for the family. The time she doesn't do the business, we are all out of school. So it is not that the community very well understands that women can make a difference because
Yes.
they are already doing in their own local setup.
Now, madam. And
But allow me to finish this point.
Okay.
The reason why they are not giving them leadership is, I think it is sometimes I feel that it's people are scared. Once people know the capacity of women,
yes,
then people will never come back to men leadership.
but I think the capacity of women, if seen and they can deliver, why not stick with it? If it's better than men, why not so?
Yeah, but because there's so many obstacles. One of the other issues that women struggle with, even in terms of election, is violence against them.
Yes.
People are beaten, women are beaten. You can't imagine even in this national, especially the single constituency member MPs, most of them are in clutches for things that were inflicted during the election.
Campaigns.
So they also, in terms of the laws that exist, we need a lot of enforcement to give, fair level play for women to rise to those positions.
Okay.
Thank you.
Okay. Now, madam, recently there was a book written by a woman pioneer leader called Farhiya, and she chronicled, how women dream and want to be positioned and increase their level of education and be, at par with the rest. But still, women who rose to the position of senior position in this country still suffer harassment and intimidation. Some are even taken from their job. We know what happened to the first deputy CJ in this country. Even those women who are now serving as members of parliament go through harassment, they are called names. Why is it still difficult for people to believe that women can still run, even when they are in a position of leadership?
Well, I think I'll take it in two ways.
Yes.
First, I'm very grateful that the president actually recognized Phoebe Asio's contributions to this country. And she is our role model. And truly speaking, when you look at women in leadership, first, we cannot hold brief for any person who's in discipline, whether man or woman.
Yes.
If you break the law, you are personally culpable of breaking that law. So having said that, it is important that we appreciate that we still have our own biases, our gender biases when it comes to thinking and making assumptions about women and their role and the leadership that they offer in different sectors. It is very easy for a man to trust when he sees another man in power and to assume that things are either going to be weaker or maybe not done very well. I can assure you when I was serving at the IPOA board, our board had 5 women. And if you read and study